Hello, beer and football fans. On a beautiful Sunday afternoon, what would be a better time than this to experience the wonderful world of malt liquor? I hear the applause from the audience throughout the nation.
Yeah.
John Anile from Georgia and myself have the Steel Reserve 6% high gravity lager. And what do you have, Ronald?
Well, I don't think it quite makes the cut, but it used to.
We'll round it off. That's close.
This beer was 6.9,
right?
Yeah, it was 6% even. It was 6% even, and then Miller Coors bought it, and inexplicably it dropped 0.1%.
But the theme of this is 6 appeal. Does your beer have 6 appeal?
If you round up, it does.
We're not talking about 36, 24, 36 here. We're talking about 6% to 6.9% beers. And I was thinking about this. This range is an attractive range for beers. The combination, you get a pretty good amount of flavor, drinkability, and also you begin to feel the alcohol punch a bit. So I think this is really an attractive sweet spot for beers. So, regardless of, the IPA range, most of your standard IPAs are running the 6% range. Malt liquors, about 6%, then they take a gap until about 8%. But a lot of beers in this, to me, this is a very popular ABV range for the sessionability of it, the day-to-day drinkability. But yet, like I said, it gives you a little bit, you're starting to feel and taste the alcohol a bit in it, the effects of that, plus the flavor that you get over some of the lesser ones. But Ronnie, you've poured yours. I'll get my out of the bullpen here.
If I was drinking the West Coast Old English high gravity, Old English, I would be right in the mix because it's 7.5. We get a 5.9 here. Now, when I went to Beaumont, Texas one time. I went to Beaumont, Texas, and they had these in the grocery store.
A good one. I've got a can of that in the other room, an empty can, but I saved it because I thought I'd never see it again, and I haven't.
I bought this in Beaumont, Texas, on U.S. Highway 90 at a store called Mercado de Familia. Then, about 2 years later, I was on the old U.S. Highway 90 called Commerce Boulevard in San Antonio, Texas, about 3 blocks east of the Alamo Dome, and they had Old English 800 high gravity in tall cans, but I've never seen it again. But if you go to Canada, the regular Old English is 8. The high gravity is 8, and if you live in Oregon, Washington, Oregon, or California and Nevada, it's 7.5.
And this one also has a bigger brother, 8.1%.
Yeah.
Then they have the cousin, the triple export 211, also 8.1%. So it's
same
all in the
beer
family.
as far as I'm concerned. Tastes exactly the same.
You have the 211, the medieval code for steal, and it also happens to be the penal code for robbery.
Right.
It only adds to the reputation for malt liquor. If I was a PR guy for malt liquor, I'd say we have a public image problem. I think it began in the early 90s with the rap connection with malt liquor. That's when these brands began to really take hold. And through the 60s and 70s, the 2 flagship malt liquors were Colt 45 and the Blue Bull Schlitz Malt Liquor Bowl. It's on the heels of sort of country club malt liquor, sort of set the stage of being the first nationally distributed and fairly successful brand. But and if you go back and look on YouTube, the amount of advertisements in the 70s for malt liquor, huge amount for Schlitz Malt Liquor Bull and Colt 45. Schlitz Malt Liquor Bull, their pitch men were a who's who of rock and roll, R&B and soul groups. I remember some diverse as the OJs to Southern rockers like Marshall Tucker Band, and one from John Neely's area, 38 Special. And after the 90s, malt liquor sort of settled in at a certain niche, and it's pretty much remained that way since. A steady but not huge clientele. But so we'll pop these open and get to drinking.
If we take a trip back to just 22 years ago, I used to be able to go to a grocery store half a mile from here in walking distance, and they had 22-ounce bottles of this. Bombers. And interestingly, back in 1998, it was 8.1 here. It's always 8.1. And another common one we got back then in 1998 at that same store was bombers of this.
Oh my gosh, that's one of those bucket list ones for me. I have never been able to get that.
Oh, I haven't either.
I never gave it a second thought. I used to buy it like it was buying a Kraft macaroni and cheese, and then one day it was gone in a flash and never saw it again. And then I was in New Orleans East one time about 10 years later, and I saw some flavored St. Ides, and then I never saw that again. Okay, I have to get off here in 15 minutes. It's a typical look, right? Yeah.
About the same appearance as the Still Reserve.
Yeah,
Typical malt liquor appearance.
The aroma's just ordinary adjunct lager. Honestly, there's a little residue of peppermint in here because earlier I did the Kentucky bourbon barrel peppermint porter.
So you have a tainted palate.
Yeah. But it's a good taint. And
yeah.
That product had an unusually heavy body when I thought about it later, because I said, that's a porter. Why did it have an imperial stout body? Well, I couldn't figure that beer out. But Alltech is a little strange of a company. But it's a fabulous product. This was very mild, mellow, and easy going. We can get 42-ounce bottles of Old English, which seems to taste about 0.1% too weak for what we're doing. It just seems to have it's a little bit too weak, but we can get it here for $1.99 a 42-ounce. But you gotta watch Circle K, because Circle K, it won't always ring up what the tag says. They'll get you on 10 cents here and there. So next time I go back, I'm gonna say, remember the tag says $1.99. Why does this ring up to $2.09? And
they are notorious in this area for doing that. I bought some beer. When I bought the Wild Irish Rose, I also bought some beers, and every one was marked was different, all the wrong price. And the lady was giving me a little bit of flack, and I just went and got the tag and went up there and slapped it on. Okay, here it is. She didn't believe me, so I physically went and got the tag and showed her this is the price. But it is in this area, they will rip you off 25, 30 cents a pop. And it adds up over, for people. It never hurts to be vigilant.
They do it here, and I don't think it's a mistake. I think they're skimming off the top and they're fixing. Huh?
I don't think it's a mistake. No, I don't think it's a mistake. It's but that's just, you get sort of frustrating after a while, but that's just, that's the way it is. But mine, I had a nice 2-finger head. Mine has since receded, but it's already developed some nice lacing, and I haven't taken the first sip yet, so I'm going to dive into it.
I bet you, I'm looking at the ingredients list right here. I bet you could call them out before I read them for Old English. William probably knows it before I read it.
I'm sure he does.
We got some chats coming in. John Womack and Miscellaneous Magnets said he would join today, but he's at work. Hopefully next time.
Okay, I'll read the ingredients for Old English 800. Water, barley malt, corn syrup, dextrose, and maltose, yeast and hop extract, and that's it.
That's exactly the same for the Steel Reserve 211. And one thing I'd like to make a note of is the fact that with all of the Molson Coors malt liquors, malt is the second ingredient. With a lot of the AB InBev products, it's the fourth ingredient. To me, that's a red flag. They use 3 adjuncts with most of the Anheuser-Busch products. They use a corn, either the flaked maize or grits. They use the corn sugar, the dextrose, and also rice. So I've always thought to myself that the Molson Coors malt liquors are more flavorful, and this one is bearing it out right immediately. At 6% to me, this has got a nice bit of taste.
This is the sweet spot, and the corn, you know, that sweet corn flavor. I am getting a lot of that. I know we've talked about this before with the adjuncts. It's supposed to be more of a filler. You're not supposed to necessarily get a lot of flavor from the adjunct, but I find that with malt liquors especially, you really, really get that adjunct tasting note. With this one, sweet corn is screaming at me, but it's not cloyingly sweet. And I'm so glad we're doing this, William, because I have not had the 6% Still Reserve in well over a year now. I've had the 8.1%, and I really just kind of – it's a little on the cloying side, the 8.1. It's a little too much. So I don't buy it very much, and honestly, I see the Still Reserve can, and I just kind of go to something else because we get King Cobra, we get Hurricane, we get, of course, Colt 45, Old English. So I tend to gravitate towards those. Not that I dislike the Still Reserve, but this is a nice, pleasant surprise for a Sunday afternoon just because I haven't had it in so long and I forgot how dang tasty the 6% was.
If you William's right on the right track. Yeah, I love Steel Reserve, and I can get 6 packs of pint cans for $4.38 here. 6-pack of pint cans, $4.38. William, I was drinking Colt 40 King Cobra because I wanted to get the brown 40 ounce because it came out with the brown bottles. And you're right. There's something always kind of off about Anheuser-Busch malt liquors, whether it's King Cobra or Hurricane 6%. It's just something off about it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't find that to be the case. It depends. Like we get the King Cobra 32-ounce glass bottles, which I buy a lot every once in a while. When you open the bottle, you get a little skunkiness. You pour it in a glass, though, it dissipates quickly. I don't get any strange. Like, I
think the AB InBev products are thinner.
No. The only other one I guess that we can, but we only get the 8.1% here, which I think is better than the Still Reserve 8.1%. It's not as cloyingly sweet. But that's interesting that y'all find that to be the case.
I find the Steel Reserve 8.1 has a very strong barley burn. But that makes sense because barley is the second ingredient. It's a strong barley burn.
Yeah, the Still Reserve 8.1 has less of the sweet corn, more of a barley burn, and then like it's like maybe more of an alcohol sweetness, if that makes sense. It's just
a nice lacing in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's going down really nicely here.
Another thing I like about this is at the finish, there's a little aftertaste. You actually can taste that pale malt in it. It's not cloyingly sweet where it dominates your taste buds too much.
This is the perfect. This is the sweet spot. The Still Reserve 6% is definitely the way to go. I really like. Wow, that's pretty cool. I have not seen the brown bottle yet for the King Cobra.
At 20 IBUs, this has enough to mitigate a little bit of that sweetness. It's obviously not a hoppy beer. You know, they could take this base beer, add some Cascade hops in the boil, then dry hop it with Cascade hops. You did have a pretty darn good India Pale Lager.
Still Reserve IPA.
And you were base beer of this is not bad. Malt liquor takes a lot of hits, but this is a damn decent beer.
Well, look how bad India Pale Ales have deteriorated over the years. Now we've got people selling IPAs at 5.6% alcohol with 45 IBUs. 5.6% alcohol and 45 IBUs, and that's an IPA. Okay.
The session IPA is a big part of the market now. It's not really I mean, I'm not a. You know how I feel about them, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people like it. I've only had one or two that have been reasonable. The other ones have not even been worth a review. As a matter of fact, I've had two so-called session IPAs before, and I didn't even post a review because they were just not worthy of my time. It's like when they should label it hop water,
Yeah. It's an
what it is.
oxymoron. It's an oxymoron. It's like military intelligence. Jumbo shrimp.
Yeah.
It just, it's a disconnect there. But like I say, with this, you get that malt up front, that malt sweetness, the graininess, and I think also this has acceptable level of the DMS, which contributes to that corn grainy flavor.
Yeah.
It's perfectly acceptable in these type of beers, and it's just a natural byproduct of the brewing process. There's nothing.
Yeah. Well, and I love creamed corn. As a matter of fact, I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving's coming up in a few weeks. My mom always makes a really good crock pot creamed corn every year. This has a little bit of that crock pot creamed corn action going on in it. And I mean, I really do. I'm really enjoying this. It's like I said, it's the perfect everyday drinking beer because it's got more body and flavor than a standard macro lager. Once you get into that malt liquor category, you get a little bit more bang for your buck, a little bit more malt character, and the 6% is the sweet spot because you're not getting any alcohol burn or alcohol feel to it. It's just got more flavor, more body, without being too heavy. It's perfect.
Right. Now here's I agree with you. I love 211 6%. Here's an old malt liquor that I enjoyed, and then as soon as I started to enjoy it, the company went out of business.
The Eagle.
The Eagle.
It was from a company called Evansville Brewing, and they made a beer called Sterling, and they're the ones that invented Mickey's Fine Malt Liquor. But unfortunately, in 1997, when I started getting interested in their products, they suddenly, and I mean overnight, went out of business.
Sterling was actually acquired by somebody else, possibly Pabst, because I saw a 6-pack of Sterling about a year ago, and I think I messaged you about it, Ron. They were talking about how it was sold at the Kentucky Derby, and it's a very small group of or very small areas that it's sold at. I
think what happened is that
somebody bought the name. Maybe.
I think some investors were able to buy the rights to the name, and they started putting out a rather expensive Sterling, because when I used to get Sterling quart bottles and cans, it was very inexpensive. It was from Evansville. There was a brewery, a pretty big brewery in Evansville, Indiana. But if you went there today, you'd probably either see that it was demolished or full of weeds and trees growing through the roof.
I got this 12-pack at Food Line about a mile away for $5.99 for the 12-pack of cans.
That's incredible.
That's 50 cents a can for a beer brewed by a major Molson. This is not some backwoods podunk brewery. This is Molson Coors. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's going to be consistent. There's not going to be any brewing flaws in it. And for 50 cents a can, I'm in. It's malt liquor, but I'm in. As I was talking with John Anile, I was thinking about maybe naming a malt liquor hangout. Malt liquor, I like it. Damn it, deal with it.
I think the response might be "damn you."
Yeah, but that's fine. I'll still enjoy it.
One interesting.
I've got 3 minutes, and then I have to go.
Okay.
The football. I can show you a whiskey coming up that people could make some very cutting.
Okay, you can do that, and you can give your score too.
Okay.
Okay. While he's going to get his whiskey, I just want to say about the Still Reserve here. They put this on the label, and a lot of people make fun of it or they scoff at it, but it says on the label, we use nearly twice the ingredients of many normal lagers and brew for over twice as long as many quality beers. And you know what? I taste the extra, they use more malt and more.
It is malty. It's pale malt, but like I said, even at the finish, you get that lingering maltiness.
It comes through. That malt character is the star of the show with this. If you're looking for a hoppy beer, obviously you're really not getting anything, maybe just a little on the back end to kind of round it out. But malty is the name of the game with the Still Reserve.
Okay, I want to apologize for not having an exactly 6.0 beer because I do like to do things correct, but I did not have time to go get it.
I told William, I said, I think you should kick him off, and he was like, no, it's okay, and we'll let it slide.
I wouldn't have gotten angry. All right.
I was trying to read the code on mine. I need to go ahead and continue. I'm going to get a magnifying glass. I couldn't read the code on mine. I just was curious what it is. I think it's March.
Well, I'm getting off in 1 minute, but I have some taste challenges coming up that are going to wow no one. But I think
I enjoy watching your average spirit, your Dawn Busters.
I think the main attitude toward this is going to be one of absolute indifference, because this is a product that was introduced in 1904, has been loved by few and noticed by even less, and has had more success than like the World Football League, but it's called Old Thompson.
Yeah.
American Whiskey Blend. And they really were brand names, and it really is a real brand, but that company gold, and they were bought out by Glenmore. Oh, I'm sorry. Glenmore was started by the guy Thompson. That's right. And so then Glenmore sort of went down the tubes, and Sazerac swooped in and bought them up. I'm going to post some photos in about 3 weeks of the Glenmore distillery that was renovated. Sazerac paid for this big renovation. And but anyway, there it is, Old Thompson. I bought this liter bottle at Total Wine for $7.99, which is not bad.
For a liter? Yeah, that's a great deal.
It's just spoiled as heck.
Best buy date on this, the pull date is March the 22nd.
Mine
21.
Mine is March the 22nd as well, because I looked at the date before I bought it, and I was actually pretty impressed, because usually I'll get, before the Best Buy, but I don't usually get them that far out to where the Best Buy, March 22nd, 2021, and then the code underneath is D07021119.
Mine is March 15th. March 15th.
Okay.
And I've already crushed
it.
Wow.
And mine is from brewery number 07.
That's Albany, Georgia. Mine is too. So mine, John, these probably came off the same. This one, the time on mine is very similar to yours too.
Really?
The military. So these were pretty close on the production line.
Nice.
Now
we really don't look too far apart, so I'm sure the same. We're getting the same stuff, from same brewery and everything. Because you're really not far.
I'm sure Albany's got a lot of stuff going out to the Gulf states and the mid-Atlantic. I think I'm going to give this a favorable score. Old English is really one of the historic malt liquors, because it goes back to the 1940s, or maybe even longer ago, when it was a product out there called Ruff's Old English 600, and we don't know what the numbers mean. 600 brand malt liquor, but Ruff's, that's the name of the company. Went back way back, Old English, and they used to call it stout malt liquor. William, probably
got another entry here, lad.
Okay, before the entry comes on, I'm going to be departing, not because the entry joined. Hey, Brian.
Did I scare you?
No, I have to go watch the football game. I'm going to give this a pretty good score. It's not exemplary. No one in their right mind is going to drink something like this and think that it's going to be like KBS or Bourbon County Stout. You know, you would have to have a child's mentality to
Not
think
even
that.
applicable. You can't even compare it. Not because of the quality. It's a different. You're talking about an actual barrel-aged stout versus a malt liquor. They're not even.
It's a malt liquor is a relatively light-bodied adjunct lager. Is what it really is, with a slightly elevated alcohol level. Unless you get into the imperial malt liquors, which can be the 8 to 12%, which can run you into a lot of legal and personal problems. But I'm going to. I've always liked Old English malt liquor, and I remember back in the late '90s, the cans used to say very clearly, charcoal filtered. When Pabst owned it, they said charcoal filtered, and I read an article saying that Miller didn't want to pay for this equipment that they would filter it through, so they just said, forget it. But anyway, it did honestly taste different when it was charcoal filtered. It was strange, but this is clean, crisp, refreshing, enjoyable. It's the kind of thing that would go well with a ham sandwich and potato chips. It's okay if you don't make too big of a deal out of it. If you're looking for gold, then you're a fool. But it's nice. I like it.
The last 12 pack of oldies I got it had the tiger on the package. I thought that was cool. I like that.
Scratching through the cart.
Scratching. That was really neat looking.
Which beer did you have, Ron? I'm sorry. Before you leave. Oh, Old English 800. Okay.
So, well, let's go see what happens with the guys there. And welcome, Brian, and I'll leave and turn it over to you.
For the Saints, this is one of those caution weeks after coming off a big win.
It's a scary week because
it's a scary week. They whooped the Saints last week. Excuse me, they whooped the Bucks. So it's
a trap. It's a trap game.
It's a trap game. It's a trap game.
It's a tarp.
And one more thing, I have to go. One more thing, Tulane beat Army yesterday, who was ranked the coaches poll, and that was Tulane's first victory over a ranked team since 1984. Tulane's 5 wins, 4 losses, and people say so. Well, if you follow the Tulane Green Wave, 5 and 4 is like, big deal for them.
So since 1984, you think it was a lucky win?
Oh, they dominated Army. They beat them 38-12. But
I don't keep up with the
last time they beat a ranked team was 84. But Tulane did win 2 bowl games in a row the last 2 years, 18 and 19. So it's looking good. But anyway, it was very nice. All right.
It's tough to prepare for those military schools because they run these old style offenses you don't see anymore. It's assignment football. I remember when I was in school. It's all about keeping your assignments.
Yep.
They run these old style offenses, and so they're hard to prepare for. So that was a good win for the Green Wave.
Yeah, pitch outs. Army was 6-1.
Yeah.
They were 6 wins and 1 loss. They were not.
Back in the old days, Army and Navy were 2 of the best teams in the country. They used to be powerhouses. Prior to 1950, the main sports were college football, horse racing, boxing, and baseball. The NBA was in its infancy, but those were the main sports back then.
And pro football,
pro football, the late 50s. It started to emerge. But I like to watch the old stuff on YouTube, the old back when pre-1950, with the boxing especially. Boxing was huge. Horse racing, huge.
Yep.
Huge. Yeah. All right. Well, Brian, good seeing you. Good seeing you. Good seeing you, John. Good seeing you, William. Thanks for letting me join.
Thanks for hopping on.
Enjoy the game. Go Saints and go
Sunday, man.
Have a good hangout, and I'll watch the playback later. What now? I'm sorry, Brian.
So enjoy the Sabbath.
Oh, thank you. I am trying to.
Kicking back and
All right.
relax,
And keep it holy.
watching ball.
Well, trying to. All right. Take care to everybody.
Cheers.
All right, Ron. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Somebody's got to tell Ron. He said a minute like 15 minutes ago. He doesn't know how to tell time very well, I don't think.
Every time he says he's going to go, it takes about
I've got 30 seconds left.
Here.
Let me talk about.
I'd like to welcome from the state of Colorado, Thrash Metal.
Thanks for having me, Will. Cool.
Thanks for joining us.
Good to see you. I haven't been on the live with you for a couple weeks now.
I'm going to try to get on Monday night. I can get a smoked beer at Total Wine, so if I'm going to
go grab my other Still Reserve that I bought.
I got the. Let me show you here. I just got back from the liquor store just a few minutes ago. So I think everybody got this one. I was looking for the Urbach version of it, but they didn't have it. So I got the Marzen one.
I saw that one. I can get that one.
The most popular.
Yeah, that is
Roush. And then for Cheese Tuesday with Beer Man, I had to get this again. This is one of my 100 scored beers.
That's one of my favorite. That's one of the best Belgian quadruple ales I've ever had.
Beautiful
beer.
Hey,
William, do you mind? I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but after you show, like, you have craft beer pours put up, if you click on that comment again, it'll remove it. That way we're not taking up all the screen space.
Oh, you're talking to
it just, that way. Sorry. I want to see all of Brian. I don't want him to be blocked by it.
Man, it's a little chilly down here.
So this one here, I was looking at them in the store. This one was the Best By date. Or wait, one of them is March. Oh no, never mind. So Best By date on this one is also March 22nd, 2021. Which I'm very maybe that's why I'm enjoying the Still Reserve a little bit more. It has been a while since I've had the 6%, but I don't think I usually get them this fresh. I'm very pleased with the dates on them.
The longer I drink, the more it does make a difference. Even with macro, with the freshness, it does make a difference. Maybe more of a subtle difference, but it never hurts to get a fresh beer.
Heck no, never hurts. See, I usually get the. Let's see, that's the 6%. I usually get the 8%. Or was it the 511?
No, it's still 211. It's just the 8.1%.
Yeah.
As we spoke earlier, this 211 is the medieval symbol for steel.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
But it also happens to be the penal code for robbery in California.
211 in progress. 211 in progress. The Chevron, the Freddie Chevron, they're stealing all the Steel Reserve 211.
Well, it's one of those beers where you've had a real jack day. You're on your way home and you hit the liquor store and you see that sitting by itself, a lone soldier next to other soldiers, but that one stands out and you're like, I got to get me at least 2 of those and a 6-pack of something. And those are the primers when you get home.
I would agree for the 8.1%, but for the 6%, you could drink 6 or 8 of, and not get too sloppy. And these are, to me, the 8.1 and the 6% are night and day. I'm going to have to do like a revisit thing because it's been so long since I did this stuff on my channel. But the 6% is really impressing me today, and it's so much better than the 8.1. Not that the 8.1 is bad, but it's just a little too much, and the alcohol's not hot. You got that grainy burn that we were talking about earlier. This one is perfect, and this is an everyday drinker. This doesn't have to be something like, hey, I get off work, I want to get drunk, so I had a terrible day, I want to go buy a couple of 8.1s. This is like, I'll buy a 12-pack, keep it in the fridge, and enjoy drinking through it over the next week.
And Brian, we were talking earlier, I made the point that the base beer of this is pretty damn good. You take this, put some Cascade hops in the boil, then add some more in the dry hop process. You got a pretty darn good India Pale Lager. The base beer of this is not bad at all. You can taste the pale maltiness of it. It's not overly adjuncty. It's
Yeah,
got a
and
little bit,
light
20
alcohol.
IBUs,
Yeah.
helps them balance it out quite a bit. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm thoroughly enjoying. I'm gonna get another one in a minute.
I
Nice.
just did, yeah. I
One
bought
thing,
two
that's
of these.
my favorite low alpha acid hop is Cascade. It's one of the C hops that you always go to when you're sitting there thinking about what you're going to brew. And let's say you got it in your inventory. It's like they're the go-to hops, the Centennials, the Cascades, the Chinook, and what's the other one? There's another one, but anyway. But
Columbus.
Cascade is the lower of the alpha acids, so it doesn't leave a real high bitterness, and it's got a really good flowering aroma flavor type hop.
I think William's right? Columbus, Chinook, and Cascade, the three big C's of
the big C. Also, you have Centennial.
Yeah, Centennial. That's a fourth one.
That's a big one too. That's
what
I like about the IPA style.
Yeah, those alpha acids go up high. You want to use those as bittering hops if you're going to do like an IPA or a pale ale or something with it. But yeah, good stuff. Cascade's my favorite out of those.
I'd still like to do the tournament with I'm still thinking about maybe with the IPAs. Like I had the adjunct lager tournament, because I like to compare the hop menus of each one. They all have a little bit different hop. And nowadays, these brewers, they're crossbreeding hops. Yeah. They have an array of hop to choose from that they can fine tune that flavor profile to exactly what they want. It's amazing nowadays.
And the way that they're crossbreeding the hops, there's just so many varieties now to choose from. Joker, Galaxy, I mean, just Zeus. I mean, there's just so many real oddball ones out there that if you're looking for to make a beer and you're going to go quirky on it and try something different, that's the way to go. Just grab one of those hops. I have some experimental hops. It's called OR70. It doesn't even have a name. And I've been using that hop for over a year and just playing with it, seeing what it can do. See what flavors it has, see what bittering aspects it has, and just making a general.
Did you put any of that in your new your stout?
Stout? No. So that one actually is been setting. It hasn't been bubbling at all. The fermentation is done, just doing a little bit of fallout on some of the proteins in there. That'll get racked over to a keg here shortly and then conditioned for about 2 weeks. They'll start tasting on it and see how it's doing. As soon as it hits a point, you're one of the people that's going to get one, at least one. So,
okay, well,
yep, because you were saying how much you wanted it, and I'm like, okay.
We have a comment on here about John
everything you brew. I mean, stouts. Come on, that's like my, bread and butter, man. I love stouts.
I love stouts too, man. Let me find you. So this is under your channel, William?
Yes.
Yeah, we're live on William's channel now.
There we go.
There's a comment from here, John Womack. What about the Natty Daddy? Actually, Natty Daddy at one time, I don't know if they still had a 6% version.
They don't. They discontinued it. I never got to try it, unfortunately.
It hasn't been on our website for quite some time. I thought it, but
the Natty Daddy, I think he's so the Natty Daddy 8%. How does that compare to the Still Reserve 8.1? And my answer to that would be the Natty Daddy is much, much better than the Still Reserve 8.1. The 8.1 Still Reserve is a little bit over the top, a little too grainy, a little too cloyingly sweet somewhat. The Natty Daddy, they balance it perfectly. It's sweet like this, but it's not cloyingly sweet. You get some of those core notes. You get the DMS that William's talking about in the perfect ratios. And even with that one, there's even a little bit if you get a fresh enough can. You got to look at the dates, obviously, but if you get a fresh enough can of the Natty Daddy, there's a little bit of a hop bite to round it out. It's a really great malt liquor. And I think it blows away the Still Reserve 8.1. I also think it's better than the Hurricane 8.1 and most of your high gravity malt liquors. Not all, but most of them. But it definitely beats out Still Reserve.
I did a side by side online of the Hurricane versus the Natty Daddy. I found them very, very similar.
They're both good, but I think the Natty Daddy has the edge over the.
I was surprised going into it because the Beer Advocate always liked the Hurricane. One of the few macro lagers that actually got a very good rating on it, especially in the malt liquor category. But I thought that the Natty Daddy at least held its own, if not pushed slightly ahead. So that was kind of surprising to me. But with this one, all you need is a little bit of just balancing bitterness. So they just use the hop extract for the Still Reserve. If all you want is something to cut through that clean lager and not impart any, it's fine to use an extract, and that's all they do with this, which at 20 IBUs is probably appropriate for this style. Just balances that sweetness a slight bit, so it works out well.
Yeah, I've had the ones you guys had and the higher gravity one. I had the higher gravity one more than anything, but it is. I love the malt profile on it. It's kind of, it's more chewy than like a PBR. It's more it's got more body than Rolling Rock or
oh, absolutely. Rolling Rock is very thin.
Yeah, so it's really good. I mean, a really good beer. Shit, if I known, I would have brought one, but
the Rolling Rock is one beer they use in beer tastings to detect the DMS.
Yeah,
that's when they say, okay, here, this is what we're talking about. Drink this, and you'll know. And then immediately.
Yeah, you get that off flavor, and
it's even more prominent in the Rolling Rock because the overall flavor profile is so thin, weak. It sticks out more like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Or it's not buried in the mix like with some of the higher gravity beers. One thing I should make a note here, if anybody here watched the Thursday night Wild Irish Rose hangout, I can report something now. I've already told John Anile this, that the Wild Irish Rose also acts as quite a good laxative. That's a side benefit you may not expect. My theory is, I mentioned that the Wild Irish Rose, the one I had was the wild fruit and herbal.
Okay.
Reputed to be the worst flavor of the crop. It had a very odd motor oil type fusel taste at the very finish of it. But I think that contributes to the fact that it lubricates your stomach. Therefore, and your digestive tract. Therefore, the solid waste is able to flow through smoother.
It also gives your stools a nice Wild Irish rosy scent.
As he can report.
I tell you,
both have things.
After we did that examination, the following morning I got up, and that's what my poop smelled like. It smelled like Wild Irish Rose.
So, Ham's 4.7%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I got the shirt. I mean, Ronald Sutton, he's a big Hams guy, and it's a very clean beer. It's kind of in line with which one is it? High Life, the Miller High Life.
Miller High Life.
Same, very clean. There's no real off flavor. It's very smooth. It's one of those, I call it an in-between beer because I drink a lot of craft beer. It kind of gives your mouth a break of, no real chewable beers. It's like eating, candy all the time. You just need something that is not sweet, or something that is just not full of bread, or, something like that. This kind of cuts through it and cleanses the palate and gets you ready for your next craft when you get through a 6-pack or whatever. But yeah.
And Ham's, being a Molson Coors product, is brewed at the same facilities as the Miller High Life. So they both use the same adjunct, which is the brewer's syrup.
Yeah, and they
only adjunct they use.
It's all condensed brewing that they do. The only when they inject the CO2 water with the CO2 in it at the time when they bring them both together for bottling and canning and kegging. It's interesting on how they do that. It's really cool to watch the process, how they get the ratios correct on the CO2 water and on that real concentrate beer that and they bring it together and do that. That's how they can make so much beers. They do concentrate brews. They sit in the freaking bright tanks for Not too long, but they got tons of bright tanks. After the fermentation is done, that's a tank that they move the beer to store until they're ready to bottle. Oh, yeah.
Another thing I like is the can design here. It's sort of Spartan looking, but I think it conveys very well the product. The silver, the 211 here. It looks like a beer can.
Yeah.
And being myself, I go back to the days back when the macro loggers ruled back in the 70s, and a beer can looked like a beer can. So It wasn't like someone who just got flunked out of art school and tried to design a beer can. I sort of like that, the simplicity, the starkness.
The coolest part, I think, is their logo for this fake beer brewing company. That's a cool. I like the BSC.
Yeah.
I just like that. It almost looks like, if you look at the whole thing, it almost looks like what is it? The pilot's wings, or the whole. If you look at it, the whole thing.
It's kind of like wings for a pilot or whatever.
That's what pilot's wings or wing. Yeah. So anyway, it looks cool.
And Miller, most brewers have a tendency, they will spin off these breweries, and it's actually the same brewery, but they'll give it a separate name. This is the Steel Brewing Company.
Oh, it is.
It is. That's technically that's what it is.
Really paid
but it's just a spin-off, similar to like a Plank Road Brewery, which had Ice House and Red Dog.
Yep.
It's all under the same umbrella, but it gives a little bit more of a niche quality to it by sort of spinning it off and making the maybe less educational drinker think it's actually a separate brewery. So it's a way to spin off, in a brand extension.
And a lot of people don't know. Not everybody does what we're doing here. They have no idea because they don't care. They're not looking into it.
No.
One interesting thing Ronald Terrio mentioned about the Old English, the charcoal filtration. Well, the Still Reserve, you see this blue SR here. Right under this, at one point, it used to actually say aged for 28 days, I believe, which is obviously no longer the case. But that was just something I thought was interesting because Ron mentioned the Old English thing that was, the charcoal filtration was mentioned on their label back in the day. Well, Still Reserve was known for their 28-day aging process before they put it in the can. They may still do that. I don't know for sure, but probably not. But they took that off the label years ago. So I thought that was interesting.
Do you think that may contribute to the taste that you were having before, where you were talking about a fresher beer compared to what you've had before?
I don't think it's so much, possibly, but it's been so long since I've had the 6%. I think most of my recollection when I think of Still Reserve comes from the 8.1%, because up until I moved to Georgia, the only version available is the 8.1 silver label. Then when I moved to Georgia, now the silver label is 6%, and we get the triple export 8.1, which I have a whole theory on that. I don't want to get too off topic, but I think the 8.1 black label triple export is the same as the Still Reserve 8.1 silver can. But because I lived in Alabama and all we got was the 8.1, there was no need for them to differentiate between the 6% and the 8.1. This label is exactly the same as the 8.1% in states where the 8.1% is the Still Reserve that's sold.
Here in Colorado,
in states where the triple export is sold, which is 8.1%, the standard Still Reserve 6% is in this can. Now, I've heard people say that they've seen the 6% silver label and the 8.1% silver label right next to each other on the shelves. My only thing with that would be maybe that's the case if you're right there on the border of a state, of two states, and you have, but like that's not the norm. I think because I've had the 8.1% triple export and I've had the 8.1% silver can, and they are exactly the same as far as I'm concerned.
I hadn't seen the 6%er for a long, long time. It was always the 8.1%. It was always that one.
It has always been that way in Alabama, and it still is. In Georgia, though, they have the 6%, the 8.1% black label, not this label. But it's the same. It's the same thing as the 8.1 silver label,
Yeah.
I think.
I'll make a note here that it's been reported that they also have an 8.9% version.
Mm.
Where at?
Having
In the
seen
States or like in Canada or another?
It didn't specify the region, but that's one of those deals. Is being
Probably
online,
Canada.
I would see it I would believe it when I saw it.
That makes me think of Canada because they have like a Pabst Strong and they have in Canada they have a weird, like for malt liquor they have strange ABVs and variations of our American made malt liquors. There's actually a YouTube couple, and I can't think of the name of them right now, but I watch their stuff a lot of times, and I'm sorry that I can't think of you guys, but it's a husband-wife couple. They go hiking a lot, and they're outdoors, and they do like beer shotguns, but they always drink like cheap Canadian malt liquor, and they get like they've had the Old English, they've had Colt 45, they've done all of our American malt liquors, but up in Canada, they're all different ABV, different specs of every single one of them. It's really something else.
Do you think it might be like the distributors, or not the distributors, but the brewers? They may be contracted out. They make a different.
I think it's because that's a good question. I don't really know. I know Canada has
in Canada,
strange alcohol laws.
Steelman does a lot of these tap brews, and there are different ABVs in Canada for these products. It's crazy, but they're contract brewed by someone other than Pabst.
Okay.
Steelman is the one that comes to mind in Canada. But if there is an 8.9%, I've never seen it. Like I say,
I've never seen
verification of it, just seeing it online. It's one of those deals that I would only believe it after I saw it. But
like Pabst, you can look up Pabst. They have a Pabst, and I've actually looked at Google images of the Pabst straw. It's I don't even know what it's called off the top of my head, but it's they same thing with Old English. They have a 8.5% or something, some crazy. Let me see if I can find the PBR one. If I type in Pabst Blue Ribbon Canada, it should come right up. It's pretty. So it's 4.8 in America.
Brian, you look like Larry King.
Hi, this is Casey Kasem with America's Top 40.
Top 40, at number 39.
Here it is.
First week on the charts.
And on number 39, we have Pabst Blue Ribbon, 5.9%.
Wrong beer.
That is the Canada. We do not get that here in the U.S., but we did get the black label for a while. Well, I don't get it here anymore, but the 6.5% black. I think it was 6.5%. The black label malt liquor version of Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Got a comment here from Simon Smith. Said, "Did YouTube have an outage, or is my internet bad over the past week?" It could be both.
Yeah.
But the fact was on Wednesday night there was a power outage during
there was a power outage on
Wildcard Wednesday, so it's really possible you could have that might be the reason for that.
Yep, there was it's actually, we looked it up. There was a YouTube outage. I was trying to watch Wildcard Wednesday, and it was just the circle of death. It wouldn't pull up.
Yeah,
the chat was going. Some people were able to get it, some people weren't. So in certain areas, there were major outages. YouTube, I'm pretty sure, has fixed all of that now. So if you're still having issues, I don't know. But you saw the image I showed of the Pabst, the blue label, 5.9. That is the Canadian version.
I think that's brewed by Steelman, I believe.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you, Tommy Carroll said Pabst Extra. I was struggling to think of the name. I was just calling it the Pabst Black Label. The Pabst Extra, yeah. That one's really good. Of course, it's still made, but it was in my area for like a week, and I never saw it again. Thankfully, I did get to try it, and I think I did a video on it but anyway, I've never seen it since. Same thing with the PBR Easy, the baby blue label. I got to try it. It was decent for a light beer. and then it disappeared, never to be heard of again here in Georgia. So, that's a whole nother. Check out William's channel for the whole Paps Get Your Act Together. That's a whole separate hangout,
Yeah.
But anyway.
We haven't given our scores for the Steel Reserve.
We have not. You want to go first?
Yeah, go ahead. You got guess first.
Okay, so I am really loving that. This is one of the better standard malt liquors. Like I said, it's way. I love it so much more than the 8.1%. It's one of the better. It's right up there. King Cobra has always been one of my favorite malt liquors.
I know you're a King Cobra fan.
This may actually be better than the King Cobra, but we don't get the Steel Reserve in any other configuration than the 24-ounce cans. So I buy the King Cobra a lot because I can get the big glass bottles, and the price per ounce, it's a little bit cheaper. So I usually buy King Cobra, and I really like it. But this is right there in that ballpark. It may actually be a little bit better. I might have to start buying this again, or more of it now that I've revisited it, because I really do enjoy it. But I guess it was just hard for me to get that 8.1 out of my head. Like, that was what I thought of when I thought of Steel Reserve. But this is really, really good.
I remember when your avatar was King Cobra.
Yeah.
If I'm not incorrect.
Yeah,
You're correct. It was up until I created my channel. It was the King Cobra.
I remember I saw this guy making comments, and this guy, he knows his stuff, John Anile. And I saw that King Cobra on there, and I said he should join us someday. He's would be a nice addition to the crew. But,
So my rating, I think, for this is going to be, and this may seem too high, but for this, it is what it is. I'm going to go with a 95. It's a straight A standard malt liquor, one of the better ones on the market. When I think of Old English, Colt 45, the Hurricane 6%, and King Cobra, this one is probably, I'll say it's top 2 of those that I just listed. It could be the best. I ought to do a challenge between this and the King Cobra, because I may have a different opinion of the King Cobra after doing this one side by side. This one's really, really good. It's solid A for the style.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your next video.
Yeah. It's really enjoyable.
I would concur with your thoughts on this. Just looking at this as a malt liquor, I find it hard to fault it for anything, really, for the style. How it ranks among on Beer Advocate, most people don't realize that number is the rating against all other beers, period.
Well, and that's why when Ron
50,000 beers. It ranks.
Yeah, that's why when Ron was saying earlier the comparison between Bourbon County Stout, that you can't compare this to something like that. First of all, it's a completely different style, but we're talking about, it's not even in the same ballpark, sure, but you can't compare something like a bourbon barrel-aged stout to a malt liquor. You just can't. There's no comparison to be made.
I'm going to do another beer school episode and discuss the rating systems in more detail. People are so conditioned to the school rating system when it was in. Everybody's going to public school or private school. A, B, C, D, E, F. Those numbers are ingrained in our minds. But yet we get on. If there's no standardized rating system, people are confused by scores. There was a flap about a month ago on Alcohol Legs, Ron Ontario's Facebook group, because someone questioned how anybody could give Four Loko an A. Well, I'm going to give that person a benefit of the doubt anyway, if they're referring only to products in the Four Loko category, a flavored malt beverage. But when there's no standardized rating system, you got people giving all kinds of different scores. It's like the Wild West, a shootout. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean anything without a standardized guideline to go by.
Yeah.
And if people look at these Beer Advocate scores like 99, 97, that's a comparison against all the beers they've ever reviewed. They have a huge database, thousands and thousands of beers. So that score is really irrelevant when you're talking about something like a malt liquor. But like I say, this one to me, I cannot find any serious fault with it. I would give it a solid 95 for the style. All the mouthfeel, aroma, body, taste, overall, it's right up there. 4 out of 5 out of 5, 4.75 out of 5 if you want to do the untapped thing. So a 95 for me, and I mean, I thoroughly enjoy this. You know, it's for just a RAB, regular ass beer.
Yeah,
it's good.
There you go.
Brian, didn't you review it on one of the either Wildcard? Didn't you do a Steel Reserve recently on something?
Probably not recently. I know I probably touched it somewhere. I'm not sure if I made a video of it.
Have you had it recently? Maybe you were drinking it off it.
Yeah, I may
have
had it, but it was the higher one, the 8.1.
The 8.1. Okay.
Yeah.
Brian, when on Multi Monday when they did the malt liquor, what did you have that night? Did you have the Steel Reserve?
For the malt liquor, I'd have to look. And
I'm thinking
I can't remember.
I'm thinking you maybe had the Steel
I
Reserve.
may have had it.
I wouldn't.
That's a lot of episodes. If you look at how many episodes Bumpy's had, it's like a blur.
Oh, really? After a while,
he's had a lot of.
Yeah,
we're cracking through them all too, which is cool.
But I remember the malt liquor was where Robert Hicks did that shameful caricature of the malt liquor drinker. I'm still upset about that. I've had serious issues with that.
He had a good time with it, but yeah, like it was. I guess is all of the like the malt liquor, the serious people in the malt liquor community, it could have offended them. I mean, but it was entertaining. I'll just leave it. It was entertaining,
but painful.
But you kind of cringed a little bit because you're like,
yeah.
It was fun.
Malt liquor shaming 2020. It's got to go. Got to go.
But you know what? That's the least of our. Robert is the least of our. The people that give malt liquor the reputation that it has are the people that do those. They're wearing their ski mask and they're doing their label out 40-ounce malt liquor chugs, and they do. That's why. That's a lot of the reason why malt liquor has the reputation that it does. Obviously, these people that are making the beers or these products, they're not saying, well, let's see what is ski mask number 1? What would he like to chug out the side of his mouth as he's doing his YouTube, rant and rave 40-ounce chug video? I mean, that's
or Moses Loves 69.
Yeah, God.
Somebody out in cyberspace might remember that. That's infamous. Summer of 2017, it was malt liquor Mount Rushmore.
Right.
And it was wild. It was malt liquor wild. It was a buck naked hangout, not literally but figuratively, and have some fond memories about that.
Oh, let's see if I have Steel Reserve in here. I don't know if I did it. I've done it or not. I may have done a Malt Monday or a talk about it where I didn't make notes, but usually I keep pretty good notes on, beer reviews and everything. So that may have been an off the cuff one. Who knows?
Such a beer nerd.
Well, beer is good. Beer is that 4-letter word that you cannot throw at someone and feel offended.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an application where it would. I think you're right.
Beer you. No, beer you. No, beer me. Beer yourself.
Beer me.
But I'll wrap this up now. We can go offline. But
to
summarize this, we had two excellent examples of the malt liquor category. So a sub-style of the American Adjunct lagers.
Mm-hmm.
And this would be a fine, 6% sessionable, drinkable, decent amount of flavor. A nice Sunday afternoon NFL football beer to settle in for maybe 6 hours of football or so. This would be a very good candidate for that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, but you ever notice it never meets the advertisement of the big leaguers like the Bud Lights and the Coors Light
Oh,
and
now absolutely not. But we were talking earlier,
It
back
is.
in the 70s, if you look on YouTube, there were huge amounts of national advertising for malt liquor.
yeah, Schlitz and
Schlitz Malt Liquor Bull,
Falstaff.
they had a who's who of musical artists that did commercials. A lot of soul R&B acts, some rock and roll acts. I mean, it's like a who's who. Those were prominent brands at that time during the 60s and 70s. People they can't get, they didn't live in that time frame would find that hard to believe, but it actually was.
Colt 45 to me is one of the biggest transformations with the marketing, because when they first came out, it was suit and tie, country club attending people. There was one advertisement I saw where a guy parachuted out of a plane onto a beach with a silver platter and Colt 45 malt liquor with 2 champagne glasses, walks up to the sexy bikini-clad woman on the beach and serves her the Colt 45. Now it's all hip hop, it's all that type of thing. But over the years, it's gone from one extreme to the next, and it has nothing to do with the quality of the product. The product has been the same the entire time. It's the marketing and the people that they think. Yes. So
the Bull in the China Shop. I remember that one, man.
Yeah.
I bet you can find those on YouTube still. I bet
they're all there. I watch all of that stuff.
Funny.
Yeah. They're all there.
That's the reason I want to learn about malt liquor, was to combat some of the misconceptions about that rag on these products that don't know anything about. The person that rolls their eyes at malt liquor doesn't know malt liquor from a man in the moon.
Right.
Well, they
it's
see from the standpoint of the
dog response, a negative response.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to learn about malt liquor. You should know more about the product than your enemies do, or those detractors. Then you can combat them and give a solid argument, but you have to know more about that product than they do.
Yep, it's like the hip hop rap community. It was always associated with that because it was stereotypical because if something happened.
Bottle.
Exactly.
Rump shaking.
Yep.
Booty call. I mean, and that gets ingrained in people's minds. That's hard to spell. But anyway, like I said, we had 2 good malt liquor styles representative, and hope to do more malt liquor stuff. And I'm sort of getting a reputation as being the flavored malt beverage guy. I did a
Who cares?
Loco video, and it sort of went viral in a beer sense. Oh. I don't know what to be embarrassed by it or happy.
It probably went viral because you're one of the only people that actually gave it its due. You gave it its like moment in the spotlight appropriately. You didn't flash it. You were
its crown.
Objective about it. You did a good job with it. So, but no, everybody out there who's watching, don't get it twisted. William knows his craft beer. He knows he knows a lot more than just flavored malt beverages and
not just drinking it. William knows usually the back end story behind a lot of this stuff, and it blew my mind. That's what really attracted me to him on hanging out with him, is the knowledge he brings to the product that he brings up. It's like, why would you present something on your channel if you didn't do the backstory to it or kind of researched way back in the archives and bring that forward and let people know, hey, this is what it's all about. This is where it all started from. This is how it evolved. And this is where it's at right now. And this is what the conceptions are and the misconceptions and blah, 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 blah. And that's good stuff.
To me, it's an analogy with songs. Mm-hmm. But behind every song you hear on the radio, there's a story behind that, which sometimes is more interesting than the song itself. Yeah. I've got a small music beer channel on a Facebook group, and oftentimes I get into the backstory behind the songs. And all these beers have stories too. Some more with malt liquor, probably more interesting than the beer itself, but to me that only adds to the fascination of it. And you're drinking a bit of history with these beers, whether it be an macro lager or a malt liquor or an ice beer or whatever. And so I sort of think that's cool to drink a little bit of history. Mm-hmm. Not get so jaded that every beer has to be world class. And we all like fine beers. Like John Anile this morning was drinking stouts. Now he's enjoying a malt liquor. That's what I call an all-inclusive drinker. Someone
Right.
who sees the whole scope.
Well,
of
if I drank,
that's
if I
what
drank
enjoys
10,
company.
if I drank 10.7% stout all day, I wouldn't be here right now.
Right.
So
That's right.
you gotta switch it up a bit, otherwise you'd be dead. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting off there. The malt liquor is speaking to me now. We can.
Right,
Drunken,
like-
where are you?
hip-hop.
Drunken? You better be home. Drunken one was supposed to join, and he sent me a private message. He was still out and about doing God knows what stuff that can't be repeated. Not safe for work type conversation.
Oh, really?
So you better be home now, Drunken. When you know where the link is, we're about to go off air. So come hang out with us. You selfish son of a bitch. All right.
But I want to thank the comments here. I always enjoy getting the comments that people are interested enough to and you can sort of feed off the people. That's what I like. That's why I do these live. I like to do these live more than just like solo reviews where you're staring at the camera. Miscellaneous Magnets, Simon Smith, a few others on here. Glad for your contributions, and thank you for Ronald Terrio, John Anile, and Thrash Metal from Colorado jumping on here late. And so,
Thank you for having us. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Until next time, bottoms up, and don't spill a drop.
Nice.
Have a good Sunday evening. So long.
Cheers, folks.
Cheers.
Cheers.